It's Wednesday, and how are you guys doing tonight? My name is Stuart Davis. I'm a flawed man of God. I'm a deacon at a small church that's outside of Richmond, Virginia. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a biblical scholar. I haven't been to seminary. I'm not trying to get you to join my church or donate to any special cause. What I am doing here is offering insight in a look into the mind of what I consider myself to be your average everyday Christian. I'm a non denominational Protestant. I don't subscribe to any specific denomination or doctrine. I'm just living each day in the Word, trying to do my best to walk a path as close as possible to Christ. So if you are interested, if you have been getting a nagging feeling or something's been keeping you up at night, or you've been worrying about life beyond this existence or your existence beyond this life, and you're searching for something in your mind, and something at you is telling you that maybe you need to check this Christianity thing out, then welcome to this channel. I hope that you can get something edifying from it. And this is mostly the what I created this channel to become. And it has evolved a little bit somewhat for that, but the original premise remains the same. Information, discussion, whatever we can do to folks who are um, interested in learning more about Christianity. I'm learning more as each of these streams goes on. I'm learning more about the different denominations, learning more about the threats facing us as Christians, culturally and politically. I'm learning more about people, learning more about the Bible as I do these read and reacts. Because look, I've read through the Bible before, but like any other book that you read through, the more you read through it, the more you get. And while we're doing it, as an in order reading, the purpose of that is to add kind of context on how the whole Bible breaks down. Lots of times, if you've been to a sermon before, or if you go to a sermon, what you'll often find is that the preacher will pick a few verses out, and they may generally, in my experience, they may or may not have be even close to each other in the Bible, but they might be hitting on a similar topic. But what you don't always get out of that is much of the context behind it. Now, a good pastor will illustrate that, but again, they might give you a brief glimpse. But if you've been following, if you're reading through, you're kind of already got some momentum in understanding context and what is going on. And nothing says that more than what goes on in the Old Testament. New Testament's a little bit different because you've got a lot of letters that are being written. And so there is some nuance and some study that's involved in that. But with the Old Testament, I find that it's much more of a cohesive narrative that's going through. It typically follows a very good, somewhat easy to follow timeline. And you kind of understand where things land when you're reading it through. So with that said, we are going to be getting into Deuteronomy, or continuing our reading in Deuteronomy. And man, what a wholesome book this is. A lot of people kind of skip over this book when they're talking about things, and myself included. And I'm really getting a whole lot. If you've listened to the last couple of streams, I feel like they've been some of my best streams, reading and reacting to the Bible. Just because I've paused and tried to give some sort of, play-by-play reaction on what I'm reading. I do that for all the read-throughs, but I've just had so much that I've been drawing out. And maybe that's where I am in my life right now, and this particular book is speaking to me more than others have in the past. Maybe it's because we're just coming out of Leviticus and Numbers, which are very dry, difficult to kind of do this reaction to. But man, these last 4 chapters we've read through have really been impactful. And I think a lot of that also has to do with what Moses is doing. Where we've gone is Moses is at the end of his life. He's at the end of the journey, end of the Exodus, and he's getting ready to send the Israelites over to the promised land with Joshua. Moses cannot follow into the promised land because of his actions, and him losing his temper, but he's sending him off. And one of the things that Moses does is he loves his people. He has endured so much. If he didn't love his people, he wouldn't have gone through all the grief and put up with it all to do it. He would have when they made that golden calf at Sinai and God was getting ready to smack them back into the Stone Age. If Moses didn't love his people, he wouldn't have stopped God. He would have been like, you know what? Yeah, forget those guys. We can start over with me. And but he did, and he endured a lot, and he showed faithfulness almost 100% of the time, even though he didn't always have faith in himself. And one of the things we talked about last night was it's very interesting to see how far Moses has come in his own personal development, where we have a somewhat timid Moses who was afraid of being a public speaker. It seems like he may have shied away from any type of leadership position within the being a surrogate or adopted son of the royal family in Egypt. He didn't seem to have anything going on there, but God says, look, you're going to be the guy, and he doesn't feel like he can do it. In fact, he has Aaron by him by request because he doesn't think he can do it. And yet here we are. Aaron is dead. And he's giving this powerful speech to folks to remind them how far they've come, and why it's so important that they pay attention to their history and what God has said, and that they make sure they know the importance of implementing it, the pros and the cons, the rewards and the consequences. And I think that that's just great that he's doing this. Now, we're assuming, the assumption here as you're reading through is that he's doing this verbatim. He's writing verbatim what he said. That might not be the case, but imagine hearing this if it had been said this way. He's very poignant here, and I think that again, this book is often overlooked by a lot of people. I don't know how many times I've seen it discussed in a sermon. It's not a whole lot. It's very rare, but this is big, and you get so much out of it. You can, it's kind of distilled Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers, because he's kind of reviewing everything, and so that's great. So we'll be getting to that in just a moment. Some other news, real quick. Going to have a very interesting personality on here tomorrow night. One that I've been looking forward to having on here, and that is Christian Mario. If you follow him on Twitter, you're getting a fair amount of excitement. You're getting a fair amount of excitement out of him. He is a younger Christian, which is one of the big things. Reasons I wanted to get him on is kind of talk about being somebody who's very traditional, very based in the Word, as he is. At the same time, being kind of a creature of the internet and from a generation that's grown up well entrenched in internet culture, and really that's a lot of communicating. So we're going to talk to him about that and see where that goes. So definitely tune in. It'll be, especially if you're somebody like my age, and you have kids that are pretty young. This is going to be the generation that they're going to be looking up to as well, and it'll be interesting to see how what his take is, because I know he's said in the past that it's kind of a struggle, that this generation has some very perhaps unbiblical views on Christianity, even the ones who say that they are Christian. So we'll get into that so much, and I think that he'll be he's very energetic, and he's very, very much a person who feels like that we need to kind of return to our roots in Christianity with with modesty, with humility, with men being manly and women being feminine, and highlighting the pros that each of us bring to the table. So he'll be on. I am getting closer to nailing down a date for the homeschool stream. I'm just needing to get some confirmation that the date that I've discussed will work for all parties. It will land on a normally scheduled Eric and I discussed Tuesday, so I'm pretty sure he can make it. But he is, I think he's moving soon, so I don't know. I don't know if that might throw a wrench into things, but I feel like we're coming to a place on that. I've talked to my Anglican buddy. I think I said this in an earlier stream, but he has got some deadlines on getting a manuscript in, and once that is done, he is going to be open to coming on, and we'll plug his book too. He does some awesome writing on Twitter, which is a difficult thing to do, considering the character limit. And I'm not one for Twitter threads where you've got to scroll down a whole bunch, but his are compelling. So I might pick up a copy of some of his writing, read it to see how much that has to do. But that's what we've got in the hopper so far, as far as coming on. And Chaco coming on to talk about Catholicism. That'll be scheduled whenever he has some availability. Anyway, now that we've got the housekeeping stuff out of the way, let's get on with our readings tonight, shall we? Where do I want to do it? Here we go. Deuteronomy 7. We're going to be doing another 2 chapters tonight. I know we've usually done 3 in the past, but man, there's so much to go over, and I've stopped so much that I think this is feel like this is good. This is covering 2 a night until I see where we might be able to go back to 3. We're going to stick with 2 for the time being. Deuteronomy 7, driving out the nations. When the Lord your God brings you into the land you are entering to possess and drives out before you many nations, the Hittites, Girgashites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, all the ites that aren't Israelites, 7 nations larger and stronger than you. And when the Lord your God has delivered them over to you and you have defeated them, then you must destroy them totally. Make no treaty with them and show them no mercy. This is very important, what he's saying here. And he's being very complete and very specific about what his instructions are here. You must destroy them totally. Make no treaty with them and show them no mercy. Do not intermarry with them. Do not give your daughters to their sons or take their daughters for your sons, for they will turn your children away from following me to serve other gods, and the Lord's anger will burn against you and will quickly destroy you. So there is the reasoning. There's the rationale. Remember, God has mentioned and intimated in the past that these people, the Canaanites, and these offshoots, have done something so bad to tick God off that he wants them gone completely. So he's going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. He's going to give the land. He's going to fulfill his promise to Abraham by giving the promised land over to the Israelites and destroy completely all these tribes, all these civilizations which have been completely corrupt. So he's making a very specific instruction here. Do not mix with these people, because they are so corrupt, they will infect you as well. So you are to get rid of them completely. No mercy. This is what you are to do to them. Break down their altars, smash their sacred stones, cut down their Asherah poles, and burn their idols in the fire. For you are a people holy to the Lord your God. The Lord your God has chosen you out of all the peoples on the face of the earth to be his people, his treasured possession. Very specific. He set them aside. And he wants all the temptations, because we know from from watching them during the Exodus that the Israelites are prone at times to worship false gods and demons. So God knows, look, I know you folks have a proclivity to to worship who you shouldn't. So this is what you're going to do. Don't bow down before these things. Don't you take these things and put them in some sort of weird shrine in your closet. No. Break down the altars, smash the sacred stones, cut down the Asherah poles, burn the idols in the fire. Get rid of all of it. Why? Because God has said he is a jealous God. He said this in the past. But not only that, these people are holy. They're supposed to be set aside. You're not supposed to be partaking in this stupidity. It's embarrassment. Don't embarrass it. It's like your parent at the mall. Don't you embarrass me here with your temper tantrum or doing whatever it is that you're doing. The Lord did not set his affection on you and choose you because you were more numerous than other peoples, for you were the fewest of all peoples. But it was because the Lord loved you and kept the oath he swore to your ancestors that he brought you out with a mighty hand and redeemed you from the land of slavery, from the power of the Pharaoh king of Egypt. Know therefore that the Lord your God is God. He is the faithful God, keeping his covenant of love to 1,000 generations of those who love him and keep his commandments. But those who hate him, he will repay to their face by destruction. He will not be slow to repay to their face those who hate them. As we've seen a couple of times already in the Bible. Though it does seem like he does have, even when he says he's quick to enact his vengeance, he does still seem to have a fair amount of patience. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it comes in swift, like a plague. Therefore, take care to follow the commands, decrees, and laws I give you today. If you pay attention to these laws and are careful to follow them, then the Lord your God will keep his covenant of love with you, as he swore to your ancestors. He will love you and bless you and increase your numbers. He will bless the fruit of your womb, the crops of your land, your grain, new wine, olive oil, the calves of your herds, and the lambs of your flocks in the lands he swore to your ancestors to give you. You will be blessed more than any other people. None of your men or women will be childless, nor will any of your livestock be without young. The Lord will keep you free from every disease. He will not inflict on you the horrible diseases you knew in Egypt, but he will inflict them on all who hate you. You must destroy all the peoples the Lord your God gives over to you. Do not look on them with pity. Do not serve their gods, because that will be a snare to you. That sounds to me, and I'm inferring here, right? That sounds to me like these folks have already been given a chance, right? God doesn't say anywhere, and again, this is me just going off on a tangent on my own. Layperson here, not an expert. This is just me reading into scripture and trying to and pulling something out. So it's not really necessarily important to faith, but maybe it adds some context. It really sounds to me in this case like God doesn't say he just randomly chose the Israelites, right? He saw in Abraham, and he knew what Abraham was all about, because he already knows the whole plan, right? He saw in the Israelites something that the other folks were not. And for that, and then he chose them and kind of expanded on that and blessed them and trying to, like a plant, he's trying to grow them and nurture them and build the Israelites up into something beautiful, while everybody else is acting like a bunch of weeds. So he's not saying that he hasn't tried to get these other civilizations to listen to him or to worship him or honor him. It sounds to me like they kind of got a shot and they chose to give in to hedonistic and worldly pleasures and serving Satan, than to be righteous. But for whatever the reason is, God said, get rid of them. And if you don't, it's going to come back and get you. That will be a snare to you. Do not serve their gods. And if you do this, you are going to be you are going to be blessed beyond your wildest dreams. Look, he's talking about, you're going to be living in near paradise. Just do what you're supposed to do. It's very similar to Eden. Less rules in Eden. Just don't eat this fruit, right? Don't eat this fruit. And this has got a fair amount more rules. But the same result. Look, you're going to be happy and healthy here. Nothing bad will happen to you. We don't have that. We don't get that here. Plenty of us have issues that we deal with in many respects. We have difficulty with finances. We have difficulty being successful in our careers. We have difficulty. We have difficulty raising families. We have difficulty being parents. We have difficulties with relationships. These are things that we all struggle with, which God is saying, look, follow these rules. And not only is it setting you up for success, but I'm going to heap blessings on top of you so that you're going to get good results. So they don't know how good they have it. And we're going to find out as we read through, they really don't. And they don't appreciate what they're being given. As one does, we take for granted what we have. And you may say to yourselves, these nations are stronger than we are. How can we drive them out? But do not be afraid of them. Remember well what the Lord your God did to Pharaoh and to all of Egypt, who was much bigger and stronger and more powerful than these other scrubs out here. You saw with your own eyes the great trials, the signs and wonders, the mighty hand and outstretched arm with which the Lord your God brought you out. The Lord your God will do the same to all the peoples you now fear. Moreover, the Lord your God will send the hornet among them until even the survivors who hide from you have perished. Do not be terrified by them. For the Lord your God, who is among you, is a great and awesome God. The Lord your God will drive out those nations before you, little by little. You will not be allowed to eliminate them all at once, or the wild animals will multiply around you. But the Lord your God will deliver them over to you, throwing them into great confusion until they are destroyed. He will give their kings into your hand, and you will wipe out their names from under heaven. No one will be able to stand up against you. You will destroy them. The images of their gods you are to burn in the fire. Do not covet the silver and gold on them, and do not take it for yourselves, for you will be ensnared by it. For it is detestable to the Lord your God. Do not bring a detestable thing into your house, or you, like it, will be set apart for destruction. Regard it as vile and utterly detested, for it is set apart for destruction. So, again, God's talking about this. Look, right now, the Promised Land, dude, it is full of these folks. And you have specific instructions. Get rid of them. And when you go into battle, I'm going to be with you. And who would you rather have on your side? Who would you rather have on your side, right? Pharaoh? Chariots? Armed men? Right? A legion? Or would you rather have an almighty God on your side who has already guaranteed you victory? And so he does that and puts that into play. And just reminds them, look, I'm with you. You're going to win all this. But when you do, get rid of the idols. Get rid of these things. Get rid of the altars. Get rid of this stuff. Don't take spoils, riches and spoils for yourself either. Because if you do, it'll disgust me. And you will suffer a similar fate. Because he knows. He already knows. He knows But he's trying to warn us. He's trying to warn the Israelites. Don't get involved in this nonsense of sparing cultural artwork for whatever purpose you have, because I already know you. You should know yourself. You can't be trusted with this. You can't be trusted to hang on to these things. You're going to worship it. You couldn't even last a month. You couldn't even last a month before you started boiling your own jewelry down to make into an altar. Don't forget. And since we're not forgetting, now we're on chapter 8. Do not forget the Lord. Be careful to follow every command I am giving you today, so that you may live and increase, and may enter and possess the land the Lord promised on oath to your ancestors. Remember how the Lord your God led you all the way in the wilderness these 40 years, to humble and test you in order to know what was in your heart, whether or not you would keep his commands. He humbled you, causing you to hunger and then feeding you with manna, which neither you nor your ancestors had known, to teach you that man does not live on bread alone. Remember that. Man does not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord. Your clothes did not wear out, and your feet did not swell during these 40 years, which is interesting. Answers kind of a plot hole question there. Know then in your heart that as a man disciplines his son, so the Lord your God disciplines you. Man, how do I miss this before? I've missed this before in my writings, or in my readings of the Bible. But here it is. This is what puts how much I put in so much perspective. Know that in your heart that as a man disciplines his son, so the Lord your God disciplines you. Does it out of love. Does it out of compassion. Does it regardless of how you feel, because he knows what you have inside you. He knows the potential that you have, for good and bad. He still loves you. He wants to see you be the best you can, but he loves you at your worst. He doesn't like what you're doing at your worst, but he still wants to set a place at the table for you. He wants you to be at that party we all go to at the end. And this answers another question here. This is good because to humble and test you in order to know what was in your heart, whether you would or not keep his commands. He humbled you, causing you to hunger and then feeding you with manna. So he sends them out there, and he kind of puts them out there, and then the Israelites, they start whining. Whoa, why did you bring us out here? Blah 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 blah. And instead of saying, "Hey God, we're hungry. Can you please give us something to eat?" No, they beg, but he humbles them in that respect. To be like, "Look at you guys. You're nothing. You're nothing. You just left like thieves in the night, right?" As the Egyptians probably thought, you left like thieves in the night. You took their jewelry. Well, they gave them your jewelry, but you just left with all your possessions. But now you're sitting out there saying you're hungry. Who are you going to look to? You're going to look to God. God is a provider. So it was a lesson. He didn't do it because he was stupid. He didn't do it to toy with them. He did it to prove a point. He humbled you, causing you to hunger. Then he fed you because you were hungry. And he said, "Look, I'm bringing you out of here. I'm going to take you to the promised land. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take you there on my back. I'm going to put you on my back and take you there. And your clothes aren't going to wear out. You're not going to want for food or water. And your feet aren't going to swell walking a ridiculous amount of time, 40 years, walking around. You're going to be okay." Did you not notice that? Did you not notice these small things? I figured that'd probably be a big thing back then when people were walking everywhere. I deal with foot pain. I'm not doing it, and it's not a fun thing to have. So that's significant. It's a sign, just like all the other signs they were given from the beginning of Exodus to now. Been given a million signs. But then he puts it all back. Look, do what I want to tell, do what I say. When you're bad, I'm going to discipline you. But don't think of it as I've abandoned you. Think of it that I'm doing it out of love. Observe the commands of the Lord your God, walking in obedience to him and revering him. For the Lord your God is bringing you into a good land, a land with brooks, streams, and deep springs gushing out into the valleys and hills, a land with wheat and barley, vines and fig trees, pomegranates, olive oil, and honey, a land where bread will not be scarce and you will lack nothing, a land where rocks are iron and you can dig copper out of the hills. Food, not just food and water, but resources, and the ability to be very resource rich. It's kind of like if we look at America, if you shrink America down into this area, which ends up becoming Israel and Judah. But we as a nation, incredibly rich resource wise, incredibly rich space wise, incredibly rich in fertile land. I mean, it's not just a good work ethic that makes us and heart and blood, sweat, and tears that made America great. It's a good place to be, right? And the same thing, probably better because it's got God's blessing on it. Probably better for the Israelites and what they're having. So, when you have eaten and are satisfied, praise the Lord your God for the good land he has given you. Be careful that you do not forget the Lord your God, failing to observe his commands, his laws, and his decrees that I am giving you this day. So, yeah, when you're finished enjoying all of these good things each day, give thanks. Remember who gave it to you. It's going to help you in the long run. Otherwise, when you eat and are satisfied, when you build fine houses and settle down, and when your herds and flocks grow large, and your silver and gold increase, and all you have is multiplied, then your heart will become proud, and you will forget the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. He led you through the vast and dreadful wilderness, that thirsty and waterless land with its venomous snakes and scorpions. He brought you water out of hard rock. He gave you manna to eat in the wilderness, something your ancestors had never known, to humble and test you, so that in the end it might go well with you. Might go well with you. You may say to yourself, my power and the strength of my hands have produced this wealth for me. But remember the Lord your God, for it is he who gives you the ability to produce wealth and so confirms his covenant, which he swore to your ancestors, as it is today. Big, really, really full of wisdom here, what we're seeing from Moses and what he's saying, passing on what God is saying. Look, be thankful. Remember to give thanks. Remember to understand where all that started, right? Who set you up here? Who's throwing his blessings on you? Give thanks where it's due. Because if you don't, and you forget where you came from, as the saying goes, if you forget where you came from, then you're going to be proud and you're going to think it's all done, all good, all because of you. And you're not going to give anybody else credit. You're not going to give God credit. But you forget, without him, you don't have any of it. And you're not worth dirt. Because without God, you think Satan's going to look out for you? You think Satan gives a crap about you? Only in the way that it ticks God off when he keeps you from following Christ. But that's what he's saying here. Look, you're nothing, right? Otherwise, you're giving into earthly, hedonistic practices, child sacrifice, and cannibalism, and bestiality, and all this other weird, disgusting crap that they were partaking in. If you ever forget the Lord your God and follow other gods and worship and bow down to them, I testify against you today that you will surely be destroyed. Like the nations the Lord destroyed before you, so you will be destroyed for not obeying the Lord your God. As is his right. As is his privilege. He created all this. He deserves it. He is giving something to you. He does not want you to just, as the meme goes, where the guy comes over, I made this, and somebody makes it, and he hands it to the guy, and the guy looks at it and goes, I made this. And then he destroys it, right? Throws it on fire or whatever, and then blames the other guy. You did this. That's what we do all the time. We do that all the time. I catch myself because that's not one of my struggles, is blaming God for things, or holding him accountable for, or attempting to hold him accountable for things that go wrong in my life. I don't think that's a positive or a healthy thing to do. It's much more healthy to just go to drive on. The unhealthy thing I do is I put the blame on me. A lot of times, sometimes earned, and I think it's healthy when it's deserved. Sometimes it's not, and that's, I have my wife to think about that, because when she sees me getting into that zone, she coaches me up and out of it. And what she does that a lot of times by pointing out Scripture and God to me, and I appreciate that. But we don't take credit for things. And it's not saying that you shouldn't be proud that you do well with the things that God gives you, with the blessings God gives you, and you are a good steward of it, and you are a good caretaker of it, building it. There's parables that Jesus gives that show you that stuff is good, and it's okay to be happy about it. But don't forget, the key ingredient to all of your success is God. All of your real success is God. Because if you do, then yeah, that leaves you wide open to worshiping others, and worshiping other gods, and worshiping yourself, and worshiping money and power and all the other things that come along with it that corrupt a person. God's the truth, the way, the truth, and the life, right? Follow that and remember that. Keep that as your focus. It's not always going to be there. As far as your focus is not always going to be on point. Your focus is going to drift. It's just the nature of us, right? But that beacon that God representing that, or that beacon representing God, is there for you to look at and try to reach back to re-zero. So we say it in the military, you got a weapon, you got to re-zero it. You got to zero your rifle to make sure your sights are all set in so that you can hit the target when you're supposed to. Same thing. You're going to get off. You're going to get off center. God's that perfect zero to line up on. He's that. You use that compass, point towards him. So that'll be our show for tonight, folks. Like I said, I've got some cool personalities coming in here in the next few weeks. This will be a few weeks before I can get all this stuff and all these people out here. But very exciting, very exciting. I'm glad I'm being able to come through with this, with my New Year's resolution to be more proactive in building this channel, with giving you more people other than just my own dumb self on here pontificating on my own things. We can have other people pontificating and discussing. Still a lot more things that I want to get. I definitely feel like different denominations, people of different denominations, rooted in traditional scriptural understanding and biblical truths, from different denominations, can help each other out, as long as we're all coming from the same point with the same goal in mind. And that's not changing the faith and changing the word to fit the culture that we're in, but more or less using faith, using God to withstand the pressures that our culture is putting on us to change and be different and to give in and do the things that God is warning the Israelites about. Letting the outside culture corrupt you and making you a slave to it, forgetting where your blessings are coming from, becoming too proud with yourself, not looking out for your family, not putting God first, and blaming him when things go wrong because we didn't do what we were supposed to do. So, folks, I hope you guys are having a good week. Since it's the evening time, we're on the second half. We're on the downward slope towards Friday. So tomorrow night, I'll have Christian Mario on, and that'll close us out for broadcasting wise for the week. And I hope it'll do it on a very high note. I have high expectations for him. Maybe we'll play some Mario Kart and he can lose. That's a joke we'll get into tomorrow. Either way, folks, like I said, I hope you guys have a great evening. Be safe, be good. Tune in tomorrow. Love you guys. God bless. Good night.